Yeah, no worries. Hey Dave, I think we got something.
Bravo Tower, line up runway 26.
Line up only 26 for Africa.
Alright, if you guys need us over that fire, no problem. I'm on it. Pilot will advise ETA.
Heading 350 is fine.
As soon as we are on site, I'm updating and advising the crew as we speak.
We're gonna go to the new fire and just gonna take a heading here.
Okay. Yeah, it's airborne. So I'm advising the crew of mission update right away here.
And looks like I already got the perimeter loaded into my iPad, so that looks good. Thanks. It's probably gonna be a left turn northbound.
Okay, copy that.
Setting it off for the winds are 260, 17, gusting 23, clear to land runway 26.
Okay, hope you enjoyed the video. Now, I would like to introduce two members of the Verimap flight crew. You will probably recognize one of them from the video. These gentlemen are the GIS experts. They fly in the plane over massive wildfires at night and mapping them. Then they send that data to incident command leaders on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, Cameron Pierce and Corey Hughes with Verimap Calgary. Unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, Cameron, you're muted. My name is Corey Hughes. I recently graduated from the University of Calgary from their MGIS program. And there I specialized in thermal urban remote sensing. So the skills are very translatable to rural wildfires and the GIS capabilities of Verimap.
Checking 1, 2.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. My name is Cameron. I've got a certificate in Geographic Information Systems, and I'm a level 1 thermographer. I'm the chief systems operator for Verimap, which basically means I'm the guy in the back of the plane with the computer and the camera. And it's been with Verimap for about 3 years now, and a couple of fire seasons. It's been an adventure. And really looking forward to improving the systems and what we do.
All right, so the image you're seeing on the left there, that's our office in the sky. So we call it. It's the Cessna 303 Crusader. And there's a thermal and color sensor attached to the bottom of the hull. So as you see in the middle image there, there's a spy hole cut in the hull of the plane. And that's where the sensor kind of peeks through as we're flying. So on the right is an example of how thick the smoke can get, and the thermal bands can actually see through the smoke. So it's better than just relying on the visual eye. And this is a little video of the camera in action. It actually is the step stair system, has a specific angle and number of stops and pictures that it takes. So it gives us a wider field of view. So when we do fly and do sensing, we can do a lot more quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, so that's a basic idea of what our plane looks like and what the tech is. As far as how we do it, let me take you into the cockpit with me for a few minutes. Just imagine the light smell of wood smoke, and you get to see what it's like in action here.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Verimap, 16,000 feet cruising over the high-level fire. We are mapping again tonight. Beautiful, long-lasting sunset. And the nice thing about tonight is that we're doing the fire perimeter. So we're really flying the perimeter, and as we go, we're able to determine if the fire is expanding. because we are getting real-time reading in the back, and I will hand the camera back to Cameron. Good evening, Cameron.
Good evening, Amir.
What are we seeing, man?
Well, we've got some real-time photography going on in the infrared range, the band. We've got our fire going on right below. You can see the perimeter that we're going to be following here for our map that was supplied to us by the fire marshal of the area based on past fire mapping and the satellite imagery. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit here, and you can see some live fire happening right underneath us right now. So that's showing up yellow. This is the lake. That's just showing up some warm. But if right on the edges here, it's got a couple points of red, which is representing fire that's pretty hot. So as you can see, it's kind of hard to determine what's fire and what's not unless it's really blazing hot. We happen to have a computer algorithm that is way simpler and way faster to send data right to the ground really easily. This is the show markers we have. These are all the little hot spots of the fire right now. So as you can see, there's a little bit further over to the west of our perimeter. So we will be flying a little bit on the west side of the perimeter just so that we can catch those extensions of the fire.
Sorry, what about the collar? So you can set up your threshold, right?
I can set up the threshold. That's more of an advanced topic, I'd say. I can show you just the reds of the fire. I can manipulate the colors of the map to show me what's warm, what's hot, what's not, and I can change those parameters however I see fit for whatever part of the fire I'm over. So right now, I'm just, like, there you go, you can see some pretty hot stuff there. And so there we have it. If you want to zoom in there, I can just zoom in a little bit more. We are going over some live fire. That's happening right below us. There's the markers. It's picking up all of our spots. So I have a very few markers put up right now. I have a threshold of about every 25 meters, 50 to 25 meters. It's doing a spot. I can do it to every single meter, but that would just kind of overwhelm my system to start off with. It's unnecessary data for what we're doing at the moment. So yeah, that's your perimeter. You can also see where I've been as I'm going, and that's how I'll probably end it up here. You can see how far we've been going. Thanks very much.
Thanks, man, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, so that's right as we're flying. By the way, if there are any questions or any comments as we're doing this presentation, please just put them into the chat and we'll look at them as they come in. We are all about improving what we've got going on here and just how we can collaborate. So as we're flying, as I was saying in the video, we're picking up thermal imagery. We have a long wave thermal camera, and there's an algorithm processing at the same time. So the long wave camera is picking up that gray imagery in the background. That's thermally calibrated. And then the algorithm is popping out blue, yellow, and red markers on top of that, where it decides that there is fire. So it decides it based on the parameters that we give it, what's hot, what's not. We're processing this data right on board and can sometimes even map it and deliver it from on board. These spots can be delivered in KML format, can go into Avenza maps, QGIS, any GIS software. The ranking of the hotspots is like red is definitely hottest, blue is the coolest. That's not to say that it's a cold fire, it's just to say that it's not as intense as, say, right on the leading edge of the fire, which is going to be blazing hot. So if there's something like a canopy of trees, say in the forest fire, the look angle of our camera, being able to look back and forth, will be able to look sideways in past the canopy, and has about a 20 or 30% overlap between flight lines, that we get a lot of repeat hotspots that are all consolidated into single spots that pop up here. So each spot gets multiple hits. That really helps. But from this, you can't really see the extent of the fire. You have to wait until we're finished the whole fire, and then you get something like this. So this is the entire fire, and what you can see is this is thousands of points, and it's made from a mosaic of tens of thousands of images. So this is about a 20-kilometer wide fire, and the hottest part, as you can see, is right in the bottom east there. No, wrong one. So this would be the leading edge of the fire, possibly a fire run, and that would be perhaps where people might want to deploy the resources or be more attentive of, because the hotter it is, the more likely it is to expand or be changing up. So it's 36 square kilometers there. Another thing to note here is right up in front are these spots that aren't part of the main body. And that can happen when you have, say, a higher wind or a larger fire that's hitting the crown. So ash, tufa, any of the moss that has been ignited is going to get carried aloft in the thermal convection current and might land up to like kilometers ahead of the front of the fire. And that can cause new fires altogether. So detecting those spots, early detection of the hot spots that have left the head is pretty important. And it's something that we can pick up here.
Cameron?
Yep.
I have a question from Steven Greenberg. Great videos and invaluable service, he says. And do you use some form of AI, for example, deep learning, to predict the fire's trajectory? If so, do you use wind speed, wind direction, moisture, etc., to make these predictions? Thanks.
Great question. Thanks, Steve. This data that we collect would be put into an algorithm or an AI deep learning software that you're talking about, maybe Prometheus or one of the others out there. We don't use that. We have our algorithm just detects the hotspots themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so using this, we can also create a perimeter. We just trace an outline around the body of the fire, and that KML or shapefile gets sent out to whoever is needing it. So the incident command and the GIS professionals. So up to you, Corey.
Yeah, so as Cameron was saying a couple slides ago, our data is very easily usable in several different programs. This program here is Google Earth, and this is a fly through. It's not true 3D, it's a 2.5D, so the height is exaggerated a little bit to make it look a little nicer. You can see the fire going along kind of the valley and part of the mountain there, but yeah, this is a geo-referenced image file. So our images can be projected in real time as well, so that you can see and compare to other maps as a layer. So this image here, this is the bottom right corner. You see the purple line kind of following the wide swath. The purple line is our flight path. And as we fly along, you can actually see the 5 kilometer wide swath of thermal imagery. The darker is cooler and whiter is hotter. So as we fly by, you can see the old perimeter is the blue outline, and usually we'll get a request to fly the fire, and it'll be based off of the old perimeter, and they'll ask us, hey, fly around this and see what you can find. So the green was what we actually found using this scan. That's the new perimeter. And if you see the white box in the top right corner there, that's actually the perimeter drawn around the hotspots we've detected. So and then that's the spot that they should be focusing on, because that's more than likely to spread. So it's a good way to utilize resources by detecting where the problems are.
Yeah.
One thing that's great about our plane and our wide swath is that we're actually able to fly quicker and a little bit faster as well. So in this image here, you see one big fire at the top, you see about a medium fire in the bottom there, and a couple small ones in the middle and the left. So we're actually able to fly a few fires in one mission.
Yeah, so a few fires a mission. Our record so far is 14 fires in a single night that we've flown and delivered. So with so many fires, though, you'd think that there must be other methods to detect fires, and there are, of course. Satellites being the major one. You've got the VIRS, MODIS. Canada's actually developing its own fire satellite that should be launched pretty soon here. And it's great. Like, satellite imagery is fantastic for that. The thermal band can pick up fairly large fires, and that's the key, is that if there happens to be, say, a weather system, clouds in the way between space and the ground, thermal imagery is not, you can't pick up anything that's any thermal imagery. That and the fire itself has to be large enough and hot enough to be picked up from space. So early detection, kind of a big thing. You want to get it before it gets too big.
Cameron?
Yeah.
You're talking about early detection, and there's a follow-up question from Steven Greenberg again.
Yeah.
He says, do you think that your data could also be used to help local residents prepare for evacuation? I used to do this several years ago for Northern California wildfires. Many in my community in Lake County found this very useful. The data were often an hour to several hours old, so wonder whether the real-time data could be more useful for evaluating whether evacuation orders should be issued by the local law enforcement. Thank you.
Another great question. So it depends on the local law enforcement or whoever is hiring the camera to fly and how many times they want to fly it. Absolutely, it would be of great importance and useful to see the expansion of the fire, because we can fly 5 hours at a time and monitor that, and this is in a single gas tank. So if we're seeing the fire expand over those 5 hours and in what direction it's changing, it can be day or night. We can fly during the day, fly during the night. It's more sensitive during the night, but if this is an active moving fire during the day, it's just as good. So yes, if it's our data as it's available, if it's being requested, would be a great help. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, and you talked about early detection, and I think that's related to it, I assume.
Early detection, maybe, like if there are some hot spots, if the fire is spotting ahead of the head of the fire, that could be quite useful. The early detection, if the fire is approaching a community, often there's a fire smart safety plan in place that has already, yeah, it would be useful. Let me get into some more early detection stuff. I actually have a slide on that. Like in this slide, these are all spots from the MODIS and VIRS satellite. So lots of little hot spots, but say like there's a lightning storm, you have lightning, thunderstorm, each one of those lightning strikes that is hitting the ground could potentially, if it's over a forest, create a forest fire. So you wait until the rain has dried off a little bit, then you send out a plane like ours. And a lot of the time people are sending out planes that look for smoke. You have an observer and you're just waiting for a plume of smoke. You want to sometimes get the fire before that. So we have a whole list of all the lightning strikes that have happened in a certain time, and we can fly over top and just kind of grab those. Satellite data can be a little bit too coarse though for really detecting the fires from space. Let me show you. Like on the right here, this is MODIS data. So it's about a 1 kilometer pixel. And VIRS is a 375 meters. Within that 1 kilometer, there is a fire somewhere that's hot enough to be seen from space. Problem is, you don't know if that's crossed a road. Like look at those orange squares on the left there of that one there. Within that 1 kilometer, the fire could be across any one of those natural boundaries: river, road, train line. Compare that to more of the Verimap style. When you're in an aerial, like a plane, you're getting a lot more resolution there. So you can really see whether or not it's across the river, across the road. Pretty important. So we can pick up about a 6-inch hotspot. We've also picked up like charcoal briquettes from up to 10,000 feet in the air if it's in an open field. And it's pretty good, about 1,000 times finer resolution than some satellites.
All right, so this slide actually helps to answer Stephen Greenberg's second question there. So we can actually run multiple flights on the same fire. This is an example of that, but this is over a period of 4 weeks. We obviously could, with the right amount of crew and the right amount of fuel and planes, we could fly every 5-10 minutes if needed. So this is just a time-lapse example of one fire that you can kind of see how it got out of hand and how it traveled along the terrain. So this is the kind of data that's very useful for doing quality control for prediction models like Prometheus, and also just to serve as a lesson to teach people that these fires get out of hand pretty quick. So it's good to get them early and prevent this kind of damage.
Yeah, pretty big fire too. This one was yeah, as you can see, like 810
square kilometers. Yeah, it started off only as 18 square kilometers. That's 4-week period. We did about 6 or 7 scans for this fire. Okay, so this is from the 2021 fire mapping season that Verimap did. This is just the BC fires here, but there's about 150 fires that or missions that we flew and fires that we scanned. And as you can see here, the polygons that have colors within them, those are obviously fires that have grown and spread as we keep doing more scans. So there's a handful of really big ones, but you see some of the smaller ones that kind of just get either put out by naturally or combated effectively to battle the spread. So we can tackle many fires at once. And this is, you have 26 missions over 40 days, and we end up mapping over 150 fires. So one thing that people think of is, well, why is the thermal sensor great? Well, part of the reason it's great is because when you actually look at these fires close up and from afar, you can see that it's difficult to see the fire itself. The left image there is from the cockpit of our Cessna 303. And it's actually rare to be able to see the fire through the smoke like that. But so that was just a great image to show. But generally what you'll end up seeing is a bunch of cloud cover, like the middle image. And you can kind of see maybe what a perimeter might be in the top of the image there, in the top middle. But more rare is when the wind travel goes against the travel of the fire. And that's what the image on the right is there. So you can actually see some of the fire in the fire crown spreading, and the wind is actually blowing the smoke the opposite direction. So that leads to this slide right here. And this is kind of a thermal visualization through the smoke of the last slide. So go back to the last slide just briefly here. So if you look on the far right there, you can see just a little bit of fire on the perimeter. Thank you for the zoom in, it's perfect. So you can see kind of some of the perimeter there, but you can't see if there's any fire before that still. So you don't know if it's okay to go put out the fires and kind of chase what might be containable still. So just go to the next slide. So this lets us see where the fire is and to draw a perimeter around it for fire crew. And we're trying to make it, seeing through smoke and making the invisible visible.
Yeah, so it's pretty astonishing what you can see from the plane during the day. During the night, it's actually surprisingly little that you can see. The hot spots aren't blazing hot enough to be bright, that I can see them. Or they're obscured by smoke. So once in a while, we'll hit the head of the fire where there's just that much fire just crowning, and it's a kind of scary sight. Something we don't like to see is this is a mission from a couple years ago where we were called out, and it was a smaller fire. They detected it by satellite, and then it was cloudy for a period of days, and they weren't getting any new updates. And so hey, Verimap, can you go up and can you scan it? They'd be getting local reports that the fire was approaching the road. We go up, scan it. Not only is it across the road, it's past the river as well, and it went on for another 10 kilometers past on the east side of that river, which was just crazy. And right in the middle there, you can see like this is the urban wildfire interface right here. This is a highway. You've got a train line, rivers, houses, machine shops, and it's really unsettling in some ways to see the human impact of a wildfire. Scale bar, it's about 1 kilometer. And so you see right there at the bottom, that's the scale bar. If Modus was flying this one, you wouldn't be able to tell exactly where the fire was. And it's crucial because if you have the fire coming, you can set up a fire line along that natural break. A huge windstorm had just come and blown it right across. And so really important to get some containment there. But yeah, resolution, just crucial. This is an image of, if you were to see it through Modus's eyes, this is the scene of a wildfire. So I'm changing the scale, or not changing the scale, I'm just changing the resolution a little bit. So this is from Modus. This is about Veers, the other satellite. Then you get into some of the higher resolution methods. So this is about getting down to 100 meter pixel, 50 meter pixel. Finally, you're being able to see some, what a fire looks like and where the fire is. It's not until you get to 1 meter, which is our average here. We're flying about 10,000 feet. The 1 meter pixel resolution, you're really seeing the boundary and the detail of the fire. So it's just really astonishing what fire can do. It's in a way not something that a lot of people get to see, what wildfire looks like from the air. So like results of the imagery once compiled, like this is say 2,000 images all compiled, flying at 10,000 feet. It took us maybe 10 minutes to map, but it's over an area of dozens of square kilometers, so thousands of hectares. We can cover nearly, like, what is it, 200,000 acres, or 200,000 acres an hour, about 1 million acres in emission. So it's a lot of fire you can put into that.
Cameron, do you mind going back just one slide? I just wanted to explain the
Yeah,
slide
please.
a little bit better. So this slide here, it's actually been resampled to different resolutions, to different pixel resolutions. So can you cycle just through all of them again? This is the same image, just with different resolutions over the same area with the same image. So this is kind of what Cameron's saying is like, this is what the sensors would see and what would be delivered. So I remember I showed this to somebody else before and they had a question like that. So I figured I would just answer that one preemptively. All right, perfect. Thanks. Sorry to
No worries.
throw off your flow. You were doing great.
So the thermal imagery gets, you can't see thermal obviously, but you can resample it and you can apply a false color image to it. So in this case, gray is cool, red is hot, and it helps find out where the fire is. If you didn't put that false color in, it would all be white and gray, a little more difficult to see. Well, actually, I had something on this one here. There was on the west side here. So that little black dot on the, those black dots right in the center, and on the west edge, those are metal roofs of houses. So you can just really see the fire approaching the lake and residences. But yeah, all this data gets put down into the government. They distribute it as they see fit. It's rate 7 o'clock in the morning. Fire crews are getting this data and are able to act on it. What exactly they do with the data, we have a little better idea now, but we're always open to what do you do with data once you get it? What's effective for you? What can you use, and how can we better change or distribute the data? So anything like that, please pipe up in the chat. It'd be great.
One thing that's really good too is that we can change. Could you go back just one slide to the thermal again? So this coloration here, it's using the digital number or the brightness values of our sensor. So we can actually adjust the threshold of what it detects as a hotspot to any value we would like. So we actually proved that we can fly over livestock and pinpoint livestock heat signatures. So if they were wondering, hey, where should we protect? If we fly over and we detect some of these livestock areas, we could say, well, maybe they should evacuate this. And those are some other uses that are underutilized that we've thought of.
Yeah, really picks up water, changes in temperature. So flood mapping and livestock comes up really well. Yeah, that's it for us. Thanks very much. Sandeep, back to you, or Al.
Yeah. So do you? I would request everyone to ask questions, and I think Zermina has a question here, and its question is: just want to know which program is used to show and map these fires.
Yeah, if you allow, may I ask myself?
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering that the imageries that you have just shown, where you can, where you're showing the extent of fire spread as well, and different types of fires as well, which are low in intensity and some are very high in intensity. So I just wanted to know, are these imageries taken from NASA or any other website, or is there any program that has been done to like map up all these fires?
Program. Not that I'm aware of. All this imagery is our own, taken from our plane, and like sometimes if we don't have satellite imagery, we'll borrow or reference Google and just to have a base map. But maybe I'm not understanding the question. Corey, did you have any comment on that?
Yes,
could you rephrase the question perhaps?
The program means, let me make it more specific. I mean, the program means that there is a data available of the fires on NASA and GFD of all over the world. So different people use either QGIS or R programming to map up those fires for a particular area.
Yeah, we use ArcPro and QGIS for ours, as well as Mosaic Maker is our own program which does the mosaicing of the thermal imagery as well as the detection. We developed that ourselves with our friends.
Yeah.
It is available. Some of this imagery can be available through if you contact the governments. Like our imagery, we can't share except for specific ones because we're under contract to the Alberta government and the BC government, so we can't share their fires. However, we can share fires that we've flown on our own. So if you would like specific data or sample data, please let us know and we can share that with you.
Okay.
Yes. I just want to add, sometimes the data is not openly available because there could be an investigation for arson. So if that's the case, they can't release any evidence or any, it's sensitive data. So they ended up keeping it private for the most part. So there are some that we can, but for the most part, we have to wait for them to give us the okay.
Stephen, would you like to unmute yourself and ask these questions yourself so that we can have more?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I see you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Your presentation is awesome and the work you do is really important. There are two applications that I see for Verimap. One is guiding firefighters to the places that are most urgently in need of their resources. I know this from having worked with Tim Ball of Fireball many years ago when I was engaged with him and a UC Berkeley group. Often it's chaos on the ground in a major wildfire that's moving very fast. And so having access to your data can actually allow firefighters to redeploy quickly in order to try to stop the spread of the fire before it's too late. The other often unrecognized use of your data is evacuation preparedness. And it's because in order to effectively fight wildfire, people need to clear out, because any civilians in the area where wildfires are raging and where firefighters are trying to get in interfere with the firefighting battles. And so the sooner people are evacuated, the more likely that firefighters will be able to mount an effective defense.
That's for sure.
Yeah, thank you
Clear
very much.
points. Thanks, Stephen.
There's a comment earlier, I believe it was from Scott, and he said that yeah, this particular slide here shows the predictability of fires, and they are predictable, and there are algorithms and AI going into this. There's already been a lot of resources put into a program called Prometheus, and it helps predict where the fires are going to spread next. There is more data that could be added to this algorithm to improve the accuracy. So thanks for that comment, Scott.
And you provide that data. What you're saying is you can provide that data, and
Yeah.
which is much better and much clearer than the satellites.
Yeah, and it's good for accuracy assessment too, so they can compare what the actual scans are and how they changed over time to what their predictive change models were. So it acts kind of as a corrective tool for the data we can provide them.
Yeah. One of the comments that I remember hearing is that there are base maps that are available through like fire weather base maps, and Canada and each of the provinces puts out, say, a DUF moisture code and fuel load and what kind of areas have certain vegetation and what the likelihood of fire spread is in a certain area. And so that could be also put underneath the maps, so a person might be able to see more readily, oh, this is approaching a very dangerous zone of dry timber versus another part of the area of the fire that is approaching a lake or a moist wetland or say a stand of aspen that isn't going to be burning as quickly. So another way just to understand how to deploy resources.
Awesome. May I request Stephen to send your email in the chat so that we can be in touch with you? And we would like to learn more about your challenges and understand how we can use Verimap's data to better do this work. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. And any other question? We have some time still, and we would like to, I have a question for you, Corey. Can you go back to the slide which shows the MODIS comparison to our what we provide? Yeah, this one. I think that requires a little more explanation. Were you able to show again?
Sure. So rivers and roads are natural fire breaks and are main spots of access to defending a fire, back road trails and such. You're not going to be bushwhacking too much. You're only going maybe 25 feet at a time as far as your hose reaches to extinguish fire. So those roads are very important to know what side of that road is the fire. Has it jumped your fire break? Because then you're going to have to be chasing down a fire where you didn't think it was going to be. The image on the right is, yeah, about 1 kilometer size pixels, and which is great. I mean, I use MODIS and VIRS data when we map. Like before each of our fires, we'll have already received a perimeter of the previous day where the fire is, how big it is. But when I'm flight planning, I download the latest NASA data, VIRS and MODIS, and overlay those points over top of our existing perimeter, just so that I know from a satellite's perspective, if there is that update, what I can expect to be mapping that night. As far as resolution though, I'll still be able to create a much finer perimeter than I could say if I was to scan around these orange squares instead of scanning much finer points. I would be able to tell you what side of the road it's on, if it's closer to town, not the fire somewhere in the town, or is it against the side of the town. That's a pretty big difference.
And Cameron, another good thing to note here is that the repeat cycle of these satellites can be, twice a day or once every 2 days kind of thing, depending on which satellite you're looking at. So we can fly whenever they want us to fly, so they get the most up-to-date data with the best resolution.
Yeah.
Corey, there's another question, says, could you please tell a little bit more about Verimap?
Corey, did you want to take that one? Or
I'll do my best. So I've been with Verimap since October, so just under a year now. So Verimap has been around for over 20 years, and they've been developing thermal technologies on aerial vehicles for quite some time. And it's been some ups and downs, but we're doing very well right now. And as you can see, we've looked into lots of different sensors. We have a lot of different things and ideas on the run. But right now, the fire mapping and the thermal sensor with the color is the one we're going with right now. And it's showing us the most results. It's a smaller company right now, and it was founded by David Stonehouse and a few other investors that are on the call as well. Hi, Dale. And yeah, right now we're flying with one plane, and we're looking to expand. We've definitely got, sorry, I'm just looking at the sensor right now. Yeah, so we operate out of Alberta, and we can fly to any country we want. We've looked into projects in Europe and some in Australia. And that's just kind of a way to splash into the off season, because during the winter, obviously there's not a lot of fires. So what do you do at that point, right? So currently this winter, we were doing a lot of R&D and looking into other methods we could do, which is actually part of the reason why these seminars came about. Okay.
And would
do you want to add anything, Cameron, that maybe I missed?
I think you covered it really well. Verimap is available on CIFC. We're registered in Alberta, contracted to them, but and because of that, we are available internationally, like Corey was saying. We had a call down to Bolivia last year to help with Amazon fires, And actually, by the time we got prepped, it wasn't that long, like a couple of days later, a massive rainstorm had come through and just totally inundated the fires, negating the need for us to go down there. We offer aerial imaging as well in the color band, not just the thermal. And we are looking into 3D mapping, been doing a little bit of that, flight line following. So power lines, pipelines, anything that you need a wide area covered. That's our specialty, is like wide area covered quickly and economically. You get one plane covering massive areas with this wide sweeping camera, and you get delivery fairly quickly. So that's our specialty.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna add one more thing too. We can also do flood mapping. So water has a very uniform thermal signature, so it's actually easy to isolate water in certain scenes. So that's actually, we looked at the floods that were happening in BC this spring, or actually it was kind of for us still wintered, I suppose, in Calgary, but for them it was spring-like weather conditions. But yeah.
So if I can summarize in one way, so you're saying is that you Verimap deals with before, during, and after the fire, and also and for fire related stuff, and then you also do flood mapping, right? Okay.
Yep, that's
great.
pretty much right.
Great. And then the other question I have is, how long after you fly a fire is the data available? That's a beautiful question, Scott. Thank you.
Well, it can be available actually before we land. So we have
Real
onboard
time.
internet. Yeah, we have onboard internet on the Cessna, and we can send the text file or the point file down to the ground crew, as well as the thermal mosaic tiles. And the tiles have to be processed and stitched into one image after, but for the most part, all the hard work is done before we land.
Yeah, so this, what I'm collecting right now, like the blue, yellow, and red spots, that is a file being written as it's going. So in a KML, it's being written, and all I need to do is click a button, and that's saved up to that point and can be is emailed to whoever needs it. And that KML is obviously opened up in Google Earth or whoever needs it. So real time as we fly can be delivered multiple times per fire, each line of the fire. And then, like Corey said, the imagery is a little bit behind, but the hotspots and say the perimeter is instant.
Does that answer your question, Scott, or would you like to unmute yourself and introduce to the group, maybe because you seem to have experience in wildfire mapping, right? Wildfire, would you like to unmute yourself and join?
Yeah, I was looking at it, and I'm a structure firefighter or municipal firefighter, and responded to wildland firefighters or wildland fires. And it gets frustrating when you initially respond and all you can see is smoke. You know the wind is blowing, you know the fire is going. Now this data is not going to be available that quick, but if the fire is something that you can't get a hold of and you know it's growing and it's going to be a multi-day event, this data would be invaluable because you can predict where things are going to go and what's going to happen from there. And that's where, like, once it's requested, I know it's not going to happen instantaneously, but within a few hours, I'm guessing, if everything was to work out well, then a person would be able to start taking a look at and planning what's going to happen tomorrow, kind of thing, so that you can set up and determine whether you need more resources, which you probably would, but then you can determine what you needed for resources and where to place them, and evacuations and everything else as well, what you're going to need to do and or potentially need to do, because the weather can change and be in your benefit as well.
Exactly. So like regional regions, counties, municipalities, each can request us. It's open. It's not like prevented by SIFC to be hired out, but to anybody else. Sometimes SIFC will only ask us out to larger fires because they're not interested in us doing smaller ones. So if you or you know anybody who needs fire mapping done because of that that problem happening, that you need something really quick, we're deployable very quickly. And yeah, just call us up and we can arrange some funding.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. And can you also leave your email address in the chat if possible, and then we can be in touch with you for more questions. Is there any other question from the group? No. So Corey and Cameron, thank you very much. As a, I think there is another question. Okay, thank you very much. I think John Bruce says, John Bruce says, Cameron and Corey, this is an example of what we were discussing with that outside the parameter highlighting or color coding that can inform the subject that Scott has referenced. And I think we can cover that as, or would you like to say something on that? John, would you like to say something?
No, I just wanted to make it so that it reminded them of our conversation, because we were discussing similar things to what Scott was wanting the extra information for. But those ideas may help inform that, what the information he was requesting, with a quick glance at the map.
Okay, thank you, John. And if there is no other question, we can carry on. Corey and Cameron, thank you very much for the detailed answer to all the questions. As a follow-up to this webinar, we would really like to meet everyone who has joined us today. Of course, there is no obligation, you know, we are providing this information, but we will be sending you a 15-minute Zoom coffee invite if we get the email IDs, so that we can get your thoughts on how to improve wildfire management from any angle, and but especially in terms of data-driven approach before, during, and after the fires. We hope you have got something of value out of today's webinar, and we look forward to the possibility of having another conversation soon. Once again, on behalf of everyone and our sponsor, Verimap Calgary, Canada, thanks for attending. Have a great day. So this is a official end of the webinar. I will keep it open for any questions, because I see a couple of people joining just now. And if they have any question, we will be on for another few minutes. Is that okay, Corey and Cameron?
Sounds good.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So anybody we are officially official end of the webinar, and any other question you have, please ask and unmute yourself. We have experts who can answer this question right away. And if there is no other question, we can close down, and I will send the webinar recording and also post it on our LinkedIn channel, LinkedIn post and Facebook posts. Thank you very much. We can end.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I hope you have a great day.